It was just past 7:30 a.m. in downtown Tulsa when Monica Ellison stepped out of her Uber. The early morning air was cool, the streets still half asleep. Dressed in a hoodie, jeans, and worn Converse sneakers, she looked more like a college student than the founder and CEO of Blue Slate Systems, a tech firm valued at nearly $300 million. The only clue to her true identity was a small white logo stitched over her heart. But no one would have guessed she was about to make or withdraw a multi-million-dollar offer. Monica didn't believe in grand entrances. She didn't travel with an entourage or announce her visits in advance. Instead, she preferred a more honest approach: show up unannounced and observe how people behave when they don't know who you are. It was a habit formed long before she had power or status. To her, the way a company treated someone who seemed unimportant was often more telling than any mission statement or branding campaign. Today, she was there to evaluate Darrow Creative Group, a boutique marketing firm with a solid portfolio and shaky leadership. On paper, the company had potential. But Monica wanted to see beyond the numbers. She wanted to feel the energy of the place, the people, the culture. That's why she hadn't called ahead or scheduled anything formal. Her plan was simple: walk in through the front door and see what happened. As she stood in front of the tall glass building near Boston Avenue, she adjusted her carry-on bag and took a deep breath. This wasn't nervousness, it was intentional observation. The quiet moments before a decision, the subtle cues people give off when they think no one important is watching, that's where the truth lived. She'd done this many times before. Sometimes it led to powerful partnerships, other times, it revealed warning signs money couldn't fix. For Monica, business was never just about profits. It was about alignment, values, vision, respect. She wasn't looking to buy a brand. She was looking to invest in people who knew how to treat others with dignity, regardless of status or appearance. This approach may seem unconventional, especially in a world where deals are often closed over flashy dinners and boardroom presentations. But Monica's path to success was never conventional. She built her company without outside funding, working long nights and making strategic moves when no one was paying attention. Now, with her business thriving, she had the luxury of choice, and she chose to spend her time and money on those who understood what respect truly meant. As the automatic doors of Darrow Creative Group opened before her, Monica wasn't just walking into a lobby, she was stepping into a test. Not for herself, but for them. And they didn't even know it yet. As Monica entered the lobby of Darrow Creative Group, she was immediately met with the carefully curated ambience of a modern agency: polished marble floors, oversized abstract artwork, and soft jazz drifting from hidden speakers. Everything was designed to impress. But Monica knew from experience that true character wasn't found in decor, it was in how people treated you when they thought you had nothing to offer. Behind the reception desk sat a young woman named Tarun, likely in her mid-20s, scrolling through her phone with AirPods in. Monica approached the desk and paused, expecting at least a glance or a greeting. Nothing. Tarun didn't lift her eyes. "Good morning," Monica offered, her voice calm and respectful. "I'm here to see." Before she could finish, Tarun cut her off with a tone of casual dismissal, still fixated on her screen. "Deliveries go around back." Monica blinked. "I'm not with a delivery. I have a meeting." This time, Tarun looked up, gave Monica a quick once-over, from the hoodie and sneakers to the carry-on bag, and scoffed. To her, Monica looked nothing like an executive. Certainly not someone important enough to be there for a meeting. "Yeah, okay." "Sure you do," she muttered. "Either way, you can't be up here. You need to leave." It wasn't just the words. It was the way they were said. The smirk. The assumption. Monica stood still for a moment longer, eyes steady, face unreadable. She could have flashed her business card or name dropped. She didn't. She had no interest in forcing recognition. Instead, she turned around and walked out. For Monica, it wasn't the first time she'd been misjudged. Being a black woman in tech, especially one who came up without Ivy League credentials or flashy investors, meant she was no stranger to bias. But this moment wasn't just about race or gender, it was about something more subtle and equally corrosive, the instinct to dismiss someone based on surface impressions. Back on the sidewalk, Monica pulled out her phone and checked the time, 7:42 a.m. Still early. She wasn't angry. Disappointed, yes. But mostly she was reflective. Her grandfather used to say, "You can learn everything you need to know about a company by how they treat people who can't do anything for them." She opened her Uber app again. There were always other options. Inside, Taran went back to her phone, unaware of what she had just cost her company. To her, Monica was just another stranger trying to sell something or sneak her way in. She didn't mean harm, she might have told herself. But that didn't change what had happened. Because sometimes, the most damaging decisions aren't made in boardrooms. They're made in passing, in moments of carelessness, when someone chooses to look past a person instead of seeing them. And for Darrow Creative Group, that one careless moment had just set into motion a downfall they couldn't see coming. After being turned away without a second thought, Monica Ellison stepped back onto the quiet morning sidewalk. The city was just beginning to stir. Cars hummed past, and a faint breeze tugged at the edge of her hoodie. She took one deep breath, then checked her phone, not out of frustration, but simply to note the time. It was 7:42 a.m. She wasn't upset in the way most people might expect. Monica had long since learned to keep her emotions from showing, especially in moments like this. What she felt was not anger, it was clarity. Years of hard-earned experience had taught her that these small, seemingly insignificant moments often revealed the heart of an organization. She didn't hesitate. With a few taps, she ordered another ride and walked calmly to the curb. There was no storming out, no dramatic words. Just silence, the kind that carries weight. But what Monica knew, and what Darrow Creative Group hadn't realized, was that silence often speaks the loudest. Especially in business. A few minutes later, on the 14th floor of that same building, Darrow's executive team was starting their day. Kenji Morris, the firm's founder and chief strategist, arrived with his usual energy. He sipped a green smoothie while reviewing notes for a pivotal meeting, one he believed might secure the future of his struggling agency. Numbers had been slipping for over a year, major clients were backing out, and internal morale was hanging by a thread. This morning, however, he was hopeful. Monica Ellison, the CEO of Blue Slate Systems, had shown interest. Her reputation as a no-nonsense, brilliant tech leader had the power to not only invest capital but also bring credibility and vision. Darrow needed both. "Let me know the second she walks in," Kenji told his assistant. By 8:15, the entire leadership team was in the office. Presentation decks were loaded, coffee was brewed, and tension hummed beneath the surface. But by 8:30, concerns started to build. "She's not here yet?" Kenji asked. "No one's checked in downstairs," his assistant replied. "I called reception, but they said no one by that name came through." Kenji's stomach sank. Something felt off. He rode the elevator down himself. The lobby looked just as it always did, sterile, controlled, seemingly professional. But behind the desk, Taran sat with her phone in hand, casually chewing gum. When Kenji described Monica, black woman, mid-30s, hoodie, carry-on, Tehran's response hit like a brick. "Oh yeah. I sent her around back. Thought she was delivery." Kenji didn't respond. He didn't have to. The weight of what had just happened was already settling in his chest. Monica had come. She'd been judged and dismissed. And now, she was gone. Upstairs, the team sat in a pristine glass-walled conference room, rehearsing lines, organizing slides, waiting for a door that would never open. The silence in that room would soon become deafening. Because Monica's silent exit wasn't just her way of walking out, it was her way of saying everything. By 9:10 a.m., the mood on the 14th floor of Darrow Creative Group had shifted dramatically. The once confident energy had turned into a quiet, uneasy hum. The leadership team, dressed in tailored suits and crisp blouses, sat in the gleaming conference room surrounded by untouched pastries and untouched potential. Monica Ellison was supposed to be there by now, but the seat reserved for her remained empty. Kenji Morris, still processing what he had learned in the lobby, stood frozen at the head of the table. His carefully rehearsed pitch, complete with buzzwords like synergy, scalability, and brand elevation, suddenly felt hollow. It wasn't just that Monica hadn't shown up. It was why she hadn't. "We need to call her again," Kenji said, forcing composure into his voice. "We've tried," his assistant Alyssa replied. 3 emails. A voicemail. Nothing. The room grew heavier with each word. Then Andre Keller, head of business development, leaned back in his chair with a sharp exhale. "Let's stop pretending. This isn't about miscommunication. Somebody messed up, and we all know who." His words hung in the air like a dropped curtain. Kenji didn't push back. He couldn't. She was turned away. Shelby Tran, their brand director, said flatly. "By Tehran. At the front desk. Treated like she didn't belong here." Shelby shook her head and shut her laptop. "If someone had treated me like a nobody, I wouldn't come back either." Kenji sat down slowly, staring at the talking points he had printed out just hours earlier. He had built Darrow Creative from a scrappy startup into a respected name in boutique marketing. But over the last 2 years, the cracks had started to show: revenue slipping, high staff turnover, and an internal culture that no longer matched its branding. Monica's visit was supposed to change everything. Instead, it exposed everything. Back across town, in a different corner office with a simpler layout but warmer energy, Monica sat at a modest conference table with Derek Shaw, the founder of a rising agency called Sparrow Plus Slate. Unlike Darrow, Derek and his team had welcomed her without pretense or assumption. They had seen her, not just as a business opportunity, but as a person. "So what made you drop by this morning?" Derek asked. Monica smiled lightly. "Let's just say I was reminded how much first impressions still matter." By 10:20 a.m., they were already talking numbers. Derek's firm, though smaller on paper, had something Darrow didn't: humility, hunger, and heart. Meanwhile, back at Darrow Creative, panic turned to desperation. Calls were made. Emails fired off. Even Kenji's last-ditch attempt to message Monica on LinkedIn was met with silence. And in that silence, one thing became painfully clear: they hadn't just lost a deal. They had lost the trust of someone who could have saved them. By noon, it was official: Monica Ellison had moved on. At Sparrow Plus Slate, a rival firm just 10 blocks away, the mood couldn't have been more different. The energy buzzed with quiet excitement. Monica sat across from Derek Shaw, the company's founder, sipping tea in a sunlit office. There were no extravagant sales pitches, no oversized egos vying for attention. Just 2 professionals, seated eye to eye, talking honestly about what they could build together. Derek had always admired Blue Slate Systems from afar. He knew their tools were revolutionizing automation for small businesses across the country. But he never imagined that Monica Ellison herself would walk through his doors, let alone offer what she was about to offer. "You're serious?" he asked, eyes wide as he looked over the proposed acquisition terms. Monica gave a slight smile. "You said you wanted to scale. I'm here to help you do that, today." The offer was simple and generous. Monica proposed a full acquisition of Sparrow plus Slate, with a commitment to keep Derek and his core team in place. No layoffs, no takeover theatrics. Just purposeful growth. All she asked in return was a commitment to the values she lived by: respect for people, regardless of background, attire, or assumed status. Derek was stunned. Not just by the speed of the deal, but by the sincerity of the approach. There was no corporate smoke and mirrors, just real conversation and mutual respect. He signed the letter of intent an hour later. Back at Darrow Creative Group, that same hour was spent in frantic damage control. Kenji was on the phone with advisors, investors, anyone who might help reverse the fallout. Emails went unanswered. Monica's silence spoke volumes. By 1:30 p.m., Shelby Tran, brand director at Darrow, walked into Kenji's office holding up her phone. "You need to see this." It was a tweet. Just 6 words, accompanied by a photo. "Treat everyone like they own the place." The image beneath it? A skyline view from the Sparrow plus Slate conference room. No tags. No call-outs. Just a quiet message that echoed across the industry. By mid-afternoon, the whispers had started. Clients were asking questions. Word spread fast in their tight-knit sector. Everyone wanted to know what had gone wrong. Why had Blue Slate passed on Darrow? Why had Monica walked out? Kenji knew the answer, but he also knew it was too late to fix it. While Monica had spent her morning making a bold move to empower a smaller but more principled team, Darrow had spent theirs unraveling from a moment of careless dismissal. One forgotten interaction at the front desk had triggered a chain reaction they couldn't contain. And the saddest part? They never saw it coming. Not until the opportunity, and the future they were banking on, had quietly walked out the door. Within days, the ripple effects of Monica's quiet departure became a tidal wave. At Darrow Creative Group, the fallout was no longer theoretical, it was real, measurable, and accelerating. What began as a single moment of rudeness at the front desk was now impacting client relationships, internal morale, and the firm's public image. Calls from clients that once came daily had slowed to a trickle. 2 major accounts paused their contracts. A third one pulled out entirely. No one used Monica Ellison's name directly, but everyone in the industry knew what had happened. And that was enough. In the world of branding and reputation, perception was everything, and Darrow's image was crumbling fast. Meanwhile, Monica had said nothing more publicly. She didn't air grievances. She didn't name names. She didn't need to. Her tweet, "Treat everyone like they own the place," was still circulating across LinkedIn, Twitter, and marketing forums, drawing likes, reposts, and quiet nods of approval from professionals who understood its meaning. The photo beneath, showing the view from Sparrow plus Slate's conference room, made the message unmistakable. Back at Darrow, panic turned into blame. Tarun, the receptionist who had dismissed Monica at the door, had gone silent. After learning the truth, who Monica really was, she had stopped showing up for work. No email, no formal resignation. Just vanished. HR tried to contact her, but by then the damage was done. Whatever version of the story Tarun was telling herself, the people left inside Darrow knew the truth, She hadn't just turned away a visitor, she'd turned away the company's last hope. The board was furious. Investors began backing away from funding conversations. Kenji, once the visionary face of the company, was now seen as a liability. Internally, the leadership team fractured. Some scrambled to salvage accounts. Others quietly started searching for new jobs. And all the while, Monica kept moving forward. She wasn't interested in revenge. She had nothing to prove. What happened at Darrow wasn't new to her, it was a story she'd lived many times over in boardrooms, job interviews, and industry events where she'd been overlooked or underestimated. But this time, she had power, and more importantly, options. Monica chose not to return to Darrow, not even to accept a formal apology. She didn't have to. The silence was intentional, and far more impactful than any public statement. Her values had already spoken for her. In a podcast interview weeks later, when asked if she regretted not giving Darrow a second chance, Monica answered plainly, "You don't get a second chance to show basic respect." That moment at the front desk was the real interview. For anyone paying attention, her message was clear: in business, and in life, how you treat people when you think no one is watching, that is what defines you. 2 weeks after Monica Ellison walked out of Darrow Creative Group's lobby without saying a word, the consequences of that moment were no longer whispers, they were headlines. The firm, once seen as a rising player in boutique branding, was unraveling fast. Clients who had once praised their creativity were now hesitating. Some paused contracts. Others, without explanation, quietly withdrew. There were no accusations, no dramatic exits, just silence. And in business, silence is rarely a good sign. Internally, the damage was just as severe. Morale had collapsed. The leadership team, once polished and optimistic, was now fractured and exhausted. Kenji Morris, the company's founder, was spending more time justifying the firm's trajectory to the board than leading it. His voice, once persuasive and full of passion, now wavered with doubt. By the end of the month, Darrow laid off 5 more employees. No one said it aloud, but everyone knew the turning point had been Monica. Taran, the receptionist who triggered the collapse with a dismissive glance and a careless comment, never returned to work. Some say she was embarrassed. Others believe she didn't understand the gravity of what she'd done until it was too late. HR's calls went unanswered. In the end, her absence was as quiet as Monica's exit, just without the dignity. Meanwhile, Monica was thriving. Blue Slate Systems had officially acquired Sparrow Plus Slate. The deal was announced not through flashy press releases, but in trade articles praising Monica's strategic vision. She was featured in leadership podcasts, her story framed as a case study in quiet power and principle-driven decision-making. At Sparrow's offices, the energy was different. Respect wasn't something people had to be told to show, it was simply how the culture worked. Interns and visitors were treated with the same warmth as clients. New hires came on board. Projects multiplied. Momentum was real and growing. Back at Darrow, Kenji finally stepped down. Officially, he was pursuing other opportunities, but insiders knew the board had given him little choice. His departure marked the end of an era. Not because of market shifts or fierce competition, but because of one small moment of disrespect that spiraled into something no one could stop. And still, Monica never gloated. She never tweeted "I told you so." She didn't post screenshots or give exclusive interviews bashing Darrow's leadership. Her power was in the quiet choices, where she invested, who she partnered with, and where she turned away. In a business world obsessed with bold moves and louder voices, Monica reminded everyone that sometimes, the quietest decisions have the loudest impact. For Darrow Creative, the lesson came too late. But for those paying attention, Monica Ellison's walkout had become more than a missed opportunity, it had become a warning. 6 months later, Darrow Creative Group was a name spoken only in past tense. The company hadn't collapsed overnight, but like a house with a rotted foundation, it eventually caved in. A private equity firm bought the remains, folded it into a generic consultancy, and stripped away the brand. The original name, the culture, even the people who built it, gone. Kenji Morris never returned to the spotlight. Shelby Tran moved to San Diego and found a new position with a thriving agency. Andre Keller left the industry entirely. Tarun's name faded from company records as quickly as she had exited that fateful morning. No farewell party. No legacy. Just an empty desk and a memory of what could have been. But the story didn't end in loss. Not for everyone. At Sparrow Plus Slate, the atmosphere was electric with progress. Monica Ellison's influence wasn't just financial, it was cultural. Her leadership style, rooted in clarity, respect, and accountability, shaped everything from onboarding to outreach. Employees showed up early, not out of fear, but because they felt seen and valued. Clients returned not just for quality, but for trust. In interviews, Monica remained measured, never naming Darrow outright. But when asked about her approach to leadership, she shared something that resonated far beyond corporate circles. "You don't get a second chance to show people basic respect," she said during one widely shared podcast. "It's not about the money. It's about the moment, that instant when someone chooses to be kind or careless. That tells you everything." She spoke with the wisdom of someone who had lived on both sides of the table, once the overlooked young woman building websites on a second-hand laptop, now a CEO shaping the future of small business technology. Her strength was never in shouting. It was in noticing and responding, with grace and precision. For older Americans, many of whom had weathered decades of corporate change, social shifts, and personal reinvention, Monica's story echoed something familiar: the power of decency. The reminder that success isn't just about being right, it's about doing right, even when no one's watching. Her walkout that day in Tulsa wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about ego. It was about self-respect, and the quiet refusal to invest in any place that failed the simplest human test: seeing people for who they are, not who you assume them to be. The industry learned something that quarter. Not through a press release or a scandal, but through the silent echo of Monica's decision. And while Darrow disappeared from the map, Monica Ellison didn't just build another company, she built a legacy. One based on principle. One rooted in respect. One that proves, when you walk away with dignity, you never walk away empty-handed. At its heart, Monica Ellison's story isn't just about business deals or missed opportunities, it's about values. It's a quiet yet powerful reminder that how we treat others, especially when we think it won't matter, defines not only who we are as individuals but also the legacy we leave behind. For older adults who have lived through decades of change, personally, professionally, and socially, this story strikes a familiar chord. Many have experienced moments of being overlooked, misjudged, or dismissed. And they've also seen how the smallest decisions, the simplest acts of decency or disregard, can shape entire careers, companies, and relationships. Monica didn't need to raise her voice or seek revenge. Her silence, her calm walk to a competitor's office, and her steady adherence to principle sent a louder message than any confrontation ever could. She proved that walking away with dignity speaks volumes, and that real power lies in having the freedom to choose where to invest your time, your energy, and your values. In a world that often rewards flash over substance, Monica's quiet leadership offers something timeless. Respect costs nothing, but disrespect can cost everything. So whether you're leading a team, running a household, or simply holding a door for a stranger, remember, someone is always watching, and often, it's the smallest gestures that echo the longest. Because in the end, character isn't shown when people know who you are. It's revealed in how they treat you when they don't.